Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Magnificence. I'm very excited to have you back here. Things are getting incredibly tense and very real, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I love torturing these players, but don't feel too bad because they asked me to do it. This is how we like it. Everyone's safe here. I promise. But before we get into our episode, we just have a few pre-show announcements, and then we will get right into a recap and get back to the drama in the dark. Now, of course, you know them and you love them. Sarsen Games, we talk about them every episode for their sourcebook Oracles of Agra that we use throughout every single episode of this campaign, a couple of their homebrew subclasses some of our characters themselves use, and we see mentions of their pantheon flitting through the plot itself. So please go show them some love and check out the sourcebook, as we have a lot of fun with it, and I think that you will too. Additionally, before we jump into our recap, let's go ahead and hear a quick word from our sponsors for the episode. So, have you ever wanted to explore the skies in your TTRPG games? And does your favorite system not quite have the tools for you to do so? Well, now you can with two incredible supplements from Homie and the Dude. First, you can pilot your own custom airship with Sky Zephyrs. It's a 5e supplement that lets you take your adventures to the skies in a whole new way, with over 250 pages of player features, vehicle combat rules, and more. And speaking of adventure, there is no better aerial adventure for any TTRPG than the Studio Ghibli-inspired Wandering Tavern. Let it float into your latest campaign with plenty of plot hooks to either start or continue your party's adventure there. And in true Ghibli fashion, it has real-world recipes for all of the fantastical foods that your party could eat. So, you want to take to the skies with your friends and support a father-son-led TTRPG company in the process? Use code TTN123 at checkout and get 10% off your purchase at www.homieandthedude.com or through the link in the show notes. Thank you, everyone, for sticking around for some of our pre-show announcements, and let's get right into our recap. We began our last episode escaping a strange attack on the camp, some early morning ambush by a strange husk-like creature. Enduring plenty more claustrophobic, dark, and cramped travel through these tiny passageways, cracks, and crevices, getting towards Mor Akkros. Before, finally, the party reaches the threshold properly, the line between what they've tread so far and the actual city itself, opening up into a wide, open cavern, unlike anything that they have experienced in the days prior. However, as the party goes over this boundary, one party member in particular, Naime, goes over the border and is suddenly wrenched back from her mind, as something demands Naime's presence and forces Suda to the front. Suda hears nothing but Naime calling out desperate and in pain, yelling that it is too bright. And as Alina reaches out, trying to make connection, see what happened, she hears only in harsh repetition, the light, the light, the light, the light. Before gathering themselves and trying to even attempt to move on, more of the strange corpse creatures emerge from the dark and begin to attack. And soon enough, strangely, in the middle of this combat, we see Magister Kieran appearing from the dark to help annihilate the monsters attacking the party, before he turns to Khuvos and demands that he comes with him, saying he has stepped into something that he should not have touched. Soon enough, Kieran disappears with Khuvos in tow, leaving the party alone in the dark, now down 2 different party members. And that is where we are going to begin our session for today. Khuvos. The cold, still, silent, tense air of Mor Akkros leaves you with a whoosh of magic. The magical signature of Magister Kieran that has become so familiar to you. That is cool, not freezing cold, but cool and calm like the still surface of a pond. It envelops you with his hand on your shoulder as you are pulled away. In this moment of confusion and fear and desperation, your feet no longer touch solid ground. For a brief moment, before you feel tough, cobbled stone flooring beneath your feet, You can smell the almost artificial, stale air of Understone. You hear the soft commotion of the streets, and you know you have left Mor Akkros, and you are once again on the surface. With everything that has happened now weighing on you underneath a gray sky. Once again, having left your new party and your new friends behind, with Kieran beside you.
And I think he doesn't even take time to take in where he is, or he's not really thinking logically in this moment. Because after the tearful goodbye and the chaos, the panic of everything that just happened, he's worrying about his friends. And more so than anything, he's remembering the one friend that, for all he knows, isn't there, that will forever be left in Mor Akkros. And a fresh wave of tears comes, and he just turns, breaks Magister Kieran's grip on his shoulder, and just hugs him.
It's a moment of somewhat surprise, just in his body language, as he kind of quickly stiffens, but slowly puts an arm over your shoulders and gives a somewhat awkward, trying his best to be comforting, pat on the back as you throw your arms around him. And it's quiet and it's still for a few moments as he just lets you get that out. That desperation, that sadness, that fear and confusion. And you hear him speaking quietly above you. It's all right, lad. Just take a breath.
Okay.
You hear him inhale sharply. It's going to be all right, Khuvos. Just listen to what they have to say. You feel his body shift as he seems to look past you, and he says, "Not to you. Take him." You feel extra sets of hands lying on your shoulders that do not belong to Magister Kieran, and you are suddenly pulled away from him, looking up and around to see other members of the Conclave. Other Magisters, some faces you know, some you don't. But you know the robes. You know what they represent. And you know very quickly what's happening now. As Kieran takes 2 large steps back from you and immediately avoids eye contact, putting his hands on his hips and talking quietly to another individual that you have not met before. A face you don't recognize but walks from further behind you as the two are not quite restraining you, but just keeping their hands on your shoulders, keeping you still amongst this new development, this new confusion. Kieran talks quietly to the new one that has arrived, wearing that deep, burnt, umber-brown robe of a cardinal. There's no other issues. I've incited enough urgency that there were no questions asked, so we shouldn't have any other problems. Kieran says quietly. This cardinal who you see looks just like an average older gentleman, slightly graying hair, wrinkled, weather face, slightly longer facial hair that he's braided, combed, and trimmed nicely, and very intensely bright, piercing green eyes. This cardinal glances over his shoulder for just a moment to look at you. You see this image of this cardinal right next to Kieran, nodding in approval, as Kieran explains the lie that he told to your party to keep them from questioning your very quick departure.
I think at that, there is, as he's being pulled away, he realizes he's not being restrained, but Khuvos realizes very quickly what has happened and schools his expression. He thought he was in a safe place with someone he considered safe. And immediately that feeling has gone away. He feels like a sheep thrown to the wolves. And as he sort of wrenches his shoulder away from the hands that are holding it now and just wipes his eyes and turns away from Kieran without even attempting to make more eye contact and walks beside them.
You fall in line quickly, understanding the situation, pulling back your emotions you're feeling at this moment to the back of your head, just taking on that mantle that you are supposed to. You are Prefect Nemenath of the Aeon Conclave. That is the only thought in your mind as these two strange magisters, somewhat relieved in their body language that there's no trouble to be had, begin to take you back towards the main building of the conclave. Realizing, as you look around, that is exactly where you're standing. Just outside the front door is where Kieran had teleported you.
The last time he's been through these doors, there's always been a lot said about him. He's not one of the rich kids who are known for having money. He's known as the scholarship kid. He's used to being talked about. The last thing he wants to give them is another reason.
As you're entering through the front doors, you hear the Cardinal and Magister Kieran continue to speak quietly, though Kieran is no longer addressing you, and you have to guess that he's no longer even looking your way. You hear him speaking. Just give him a bit of grace. We can get a good explanation. It'll work itself out. Just be patient with the lad. If you could. The Cardinal, in response, all too jovial for the situation. Of course. It's... like I said, I'm sure it's all an incredible misunderstanding. And he'll get over it once he realizes that all this is for the best. Thanks again, Magister. You enter the conclave, knowing that Magister Kieran has chosen the conclave, as he has at every single turn. In the cold, in the dark, in the stillness, you all have known strange darkness, the oppressive air that Mor Akkros gives you. You've known it for weeks now, but it feels heavier in this moment. Those of you who have been used to things such as dark vision your entire lives, being able to see comfortably out into the world around you, even in its oppressive darkness, find yourselves lost in it for maybe the first time, as even the reach of your abilities is not enough to penetrate through the thickest blackness of down here in the earth. It's silent for a good long stretch of time in the aftermath of Khuvos' disappearance, with Leto being the first one to actually move, kind of adjusting his clothing, clutching the bag that holds the heart mimic, and looking towards the outpost that the corpse parasite emerged from just moments before that now lies dead on the ground. Kind of looks at the five of you that remain before not even trying to offer any words to any of you, slowly turning and shuffling towards the outpost quietly, taking a moment to peek in through a little window outside, kind of pushing open the somewhat broken door. There doesn't seem to be anything. He makes no indication, but essentially continues on to investigate this first building while you all deal with the aftermath of everything that has happened as a party.
I think as Leto... Is he giving us space? Is that what's happening?
Essentially, yeah. He's trying to give you guys a moment before he, pushes you all forward. He's like, I'm gonna go mind my business in this corner while this friend group separate from me figures out their drama, essentially.
Okay. I think Olwen is going to wipe the bile that's still stuck to his mouth and the bottom of his chin. He's going to whip it away as he says, okay, we need to keep moving. There are things down here, and it's clear that they're hunting us in some way. We need to lay quiet and continue moving forward. If we stay here, they might come back. Caradwin, do you know how long that effect of yours is going to buy us?
I'm not sure. I don't think for long, and I don't know that I could do it again anytime soon.
Okay, I'll give us a bit of cover while we move from here at least. Olwen is going to touch one hand to the ground as little bits and pieces of sand and dust to begin to gather at his hands. It's not the same sort of druidic or ranger-like magic that he's been using. This feels more natural, like he's doing this instinctively, as little particles begin to stick to people's bodies, not quite touching the skin, but almost like a blanket around us. I am going to use my new thing from Merge with Stone and cast Past Without a Trace.
The smell of earth that has been so pervasive this entire journey, it grows stronger, but it's much more familiar. This isn't the cold, dank underground of a haunted city. This is your friend, and the extent him extending himself to offer protection to the party.
Suda, it's been a couple weeks. Do you want to be filled in now, or don't know that there's going to be a safe time to do it if we're going forward into the place where those things came from? So booking it isn't exactly going to take us out of danger.
What is there to say at this point? We're here to protect this person. We come, we look, we leave, we get paid.
Well, there was a tunnel collapse, so leaving might be a bit of an issue.
Well, then, we're standing in our grave, so what does it even matter?
There's always a way out. But I agree that we should keep moving.
Elena does not meet Suda's eyes at all. And as this conversation is going on, she says nothing. But as we're sort of gearing up to start moving again, she opens her pouch and takes out a healing potion and just kind of chucks it back, puts the empty back in her pouch, gathers herself.
Olwen will wait for a second, and if no one else says anything, he'll go to tap Leto on the shoulder, sort of indicating that we should go.
A very tense atmosphere falling over the party. Arguably, one of the people that helps kind of keep you all together the most, Khuvos Nemenath, the calm, logical force that he was. You feel that missing. You really feel the absence of that attitude, of that almost objectiveness and pleasantness missing. It's very noticeable. Olwen, you move slightly ahead of the party to meet with Leto in this small outpost building corpse parasite emerged from. Getting closer to it, as all of you get closer to it, you see it is essentially like what one would equate to like a ranger outpost, like a lookout outpost. It is just a small stone building, partially carved out of a lot of the material surrounding you. It has the same sort of stone coloration and pattern as the stone around you. You see the ancient remains of what looked to be once maybe a small fire pit, cooking pot on the outside. There's a weathered old stone bench on the outside. There is evidence of other like structures around it, like there's grooves in the floor in old broken stone, but has long since been destroyed or swept away or disassembled in one way or another. One of the hinges on the door has broken off, so you kind of have to push it a little harder. It scrapes loudly across the floor as you open it. And you enter to see Leto just standing in the center of the room, where there is a large stone table with a plethora of scattered pieces of parchment across it. And he's kind of like leafing through them a bit. Turns, looks over his shoulder.
I would love to also go and look at the parchment immediately.
Yeah, I assume you're all kind of heading towards where Leto is, so easy enough. Turns, looks over his shoulder. First as Olwen enters, begins to further speak as the rest of you come to join. This is very interesting, I will say. There's no evidence of anyone occupying the city from when it was originally a city, occupied by a plethora of people. We did some dating on some of the stonework. The belief before we even ventured down here was that this city predates the Empire, of course. And it would be logical to assume that there would be no organic material, no parchments, no nothing like that's left behind. It would have weathered away with time.
I was about to say, this parchment shouldn't be here.
Exactly.
Parchments don't last like this out in the open. They need to be contained in jars if they're going to last this long.
Exactly. One could argue that they have not fallen victim to weather, and obviously we have not seen any sign of life except for the motions out the outpost to the things you guys annihilated. But still, as you said, Alina, it is much too old. But there's little other explanation. It is a remarkably well-preserved city, not just the structures, but everything within. He continues leafing through and motions for you guys to come by and join him. Anyone who wants to give investigation, not so to find things, but just to find the important bits and leaf through and such. Lito will give advantage to anyone who cares to roll that.
I will 100% do that.
Yes. Hello. Go ahead and take the advantage since Sage has the higher int. I'll give you the advantage. I will also, as we're standing here, I won't make people wait for me to ritually cast it. I will do a quick detect magic. 15 plus 8. I forgot how math works. 23?
13 on my investigation. So I kind of come up next to Leto and I'm just poking with him and just trying to search through.
While they're looking at the papers, can I instead look at the environment of this place? Does this... specifically, I'm checking to see, are there any droppings from the creatures that we just fought? Does it seem like there are parts of these that look like nests or roosts or things like that? Or does this look like an abandoned, like a person outpost, that sort of thing?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead. I will say you can choose nature or survival to look around the environment and such.
I would like to offer the help action in this.
Yeah, of course.
And Suda is standing aside. One thing is she has had Kieran's letter in hand most of the time as almost like a fidget, just molding it in her palm, and it's already crinkled and worn now, but that has been a consistent for her as she stares off into the middle distance while everybody works around.
As you examine the interior of this outpost, you do notice right away it is far too clean. There's some dust and dirt on the ground, of course. It's not like it's been swept up, but there's no massive debris. There's no sign of any sort of struggle or nesting or creatures. The most obvious thing you see is the strange corpse parasite with the black ichor sort of tentacle things replacing its head. You see in one of the far corners, there's drops of that substance on the ground, and a short line of it leading from that corner out the door towards where you guys were fighting. Giving you the impression it was truly just standing there, drip, 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 and then moved towards you all when it heard your presence. So, was waiting. Performed no other behavior within this outpost other than just standing.
Caradwin, come look at this. There are no droppings, no signs of anything resting or eating or living here. Not even moving around. That thing was just standing over there, like it was waiting.
A sentry? Or a trap?
Maybe. Either or. This is an outpost of some kind. Why are these things attacking us? They don't eat. So it's not for food. They're not trying to hunt us. But they're clearly aggressive. They're waiting here. Do you think they're intelligent? Or do you think something is intelligent?
Someone or something put them here. For us specifically, or for anyone who made it this far, who could say? But I don't think we're alone down here. No. I know we're not alone down here.
As you two ponder those questions about the environment and the creatures you have been facing, we're going to slide over to our folks investigating the table and the parchment. Sage and Alina, You two, this is what you do. This is the kind of work you do. This is what you're good at. You dive into this parchment with the help of Leto. The first thing you notice, there are several small scraps of what look like letters, like short correspondence back and forth. Some of it is written in a familiar hand. Some of it is written in a different handwriting. Like some were letters to be sent out. Others were ones that were received. There's several of these, small notes and small letters. What you notice instantly upon looking at them, it is not in a language that either of you, not all three of you, none of you understand this. It is in an entirely unfamiliar, unknown script. There is a map laid out, a bit worn from age and a bit smudged. It is tissue paper thin, and you feel like if you breathe on it wrong, it'll fall apart when you touch it. It is not a complete map. You see in the upper left-hand corner, there's a red mark, again with that unfamiliar script, in a similar handwriting to some of the letters, but again not written in the language anyone understands. And from there, you see branching pathways. This tiny red mark in the upper left corner takes up a percentage of the map. It branches off into what you can see for the first time visually is a massive, massive sprawling city. Almost hundreds of inner roads and streets going out into different districts and different blocks. Any writing on here is in that same unfamiliar language. It is all twisting around in several rings. Like the city is built into several rings. An outer ring where the outposts are, and middle, inner ring. Several rings are all connected by your guess, based off the illustration, various bridges connecting the different city districts. You recognize it's just a built city like anything you would find above ground. The center, though, the centermost area where all of the rings are, the heart of the city that you all have been trying to reach this entire time, is the least mapped, is the best way to put it. You see, it's labeled in that unknown language, so they seem to know what it was. It depicts some sort of large circular structure, but there's no, details. There's no drawings that expand upon what it may be. Sage, I think with your 23 is definitely high enough. With all of this information you're seeing here, and the pondering of how all this parchment could have survived, you think for a moment, maybe the mercenaries Leto sent ahead of us did get this far. Maybe they were better than we thought. Maybe they were a lot more capable. Maybe the House Tallcaster sigil we saw on the corpses behind us, maybe that was just some of them. And you're almost trying to convince yourself of that, because that's the most reasonable, logical explanation.
But why was it in another language?
The parchment is too old. There is no way in hell that anything written down here was left behind by anyone of the Empire. You don't know how it survived, but you are completely sure everything in front of you now predates the Empire.
There are arcane ways to decipher text even if we don't know what language it's in, but unfortunately I don't have that available at the moment. I'm not seeing any magic on this, am I, G?
No, you're not seeing anything magical.
This isn't bespelled to have survived passage of time at all. Do you think removing it from this place would cause it to disintegrate?
I have no idea. But I do know how to handle old documents, old texts. I do it all the time.
Let's take a rest here. Yeah, and copy down some.
I suggest that we take some paper. I should have some in my bag. And we at least sketch out the map as best we can. Just capture it before we move or touch anything, just in case. And then there are techniques we can use. Sandwich this very fragile map in between other layers, things that we can do to stabilize it so that as we're traveling, we're less likely to damage it.
I brought some materials just for that purpose.
Perfect. Of course, Leto. Of course you did.
Leto adds on and takes out big, thick logbook.
I know we want to keep moving forward, but I think we should copy some of these notes down.
Also, we're down a spellcaster, and I don't know about you, but I used a fair amount in that last fight. It might be good to rest and recuperate a bit. And this seems like a moderately safe spot.
If you like, I can take the time to do all the copying down. This is where I come in very handy. I can handle the heart mimic and I can do the academics. I can't do the fighting. So I will make myself useful.
Oh, I remember how much you like copying things down.
Yes, I love it. It's so much fun.
Do you remember that time that we sat down in the library like all night, overnight? It was like a lock-in.
Yes.
And we scribbled everything down and made copies of all the naughty books.
Oh, it was so much fun.
It was so much fun.
He sits, pulls up a nearby like old stool, and just starts getting to work. So Lito will go ahead and copy everything on this table down into his own logbook, so you guys can take copies of all these notes for yourselves.
I can take a look at that map if you want.
Of course.
Olwen is going to start pulling out cartography tools from his pack, and I'll start working on the map just to like speed it up maybe a little bit. Owen is also going to say, the spell I have, I can hold it for around an hour. We can, if you stay quiet, if we keep low, it should keep us a little bit hidden, but only if we stay quiet and only if we keep low.
It may be worth a longer rest than that.
I'm going to go get the door. Lito stands up and goes over to the door hanging off of like one hinge and pulls it, like scraping across the floor, back closed. And like there's an old little like kind of rusted deadbolt that he could just kind of... Yeah, the single deadbolt will keep these abominations out. We are entirely safe now, I'm sure.
Suddenly I'm not sure.
Lito, before going back over to the table, pauses for a moment as everyone's kind of like taking a moment to like maybe put their things down and rest a bit, just take a breath, kind of starting to do their own things, is going to pause and quickly turns and shuffles over towards you, Suda. He smooths some of his hair back. It's a bit wild and very dirty from all the travel, and clears his throat gently as he approaches you, kind of like ducking into your view, a bit nervous, but trying to come off as friendly as he can. Hello, Suda. I just wanted to check in with you. I know all of this is unexpected, and I sort of got an extra person on this expedition that I did not expect. And apologies, I am not good at this part, he says, motioning between the two of you. I merely wanted to offer sympathies, I suppose, and reassure you. I did recruit your entire party originally because I was inspired by your courage and tenacity and your ability, and you were part of that original group. I just want to reassure you that my feelings towards this party in front of me have not changed, and that includes you as well. While your sister was a delight, I think you're a delight too. You are very fun. You have a very mean face, and I sort of enjoy that.
When Lito first dips into her peripheral, that middle distance is broken, and she quickly wipes her face, trying to obscure whatever errant tears had leaked out of her eyes. And then as she's listening to him fumble about with this awkward condolence, just the reminder of Naime's loss, you see her jaw flexing, and that letter gets a little more crumpled in her hand. Yes, well, we shall complete this journey. I will take my gold, and you will never have to see me again.
I prefer if not, actually.
What?
I apologize. I am not good at explaining myself for the human factor. I am better speaking in the science end of things. I know very little about the sort of situation you may have, but I know quite a lot of people in like-minded circles. And should you seek that aid, I just want you to know I am willing to give it. however much I can.
What could you even possibly offer? It's not like you can bring her back.
If there is anything you want specifically, simply ask, and I will do my best to find or to help. That is all. That is all. I don't mean to pressure you into something. Just wanted to let you know it is an offer once we get back to the surface.
You can see Suda biting her tongue, like almost to the point that she starts bleeding. And the face that she wears just says, you've said your piece, you might want to move on.
Yeah, he fully clocks that, and he's like, I'm gonna back away and go back to copying stuff. He's like, I'm gonna go. He quickly skitters back to the table, picks up his quill, and goes like, okay, scribble.
As Leto comes back to like the little work area where I imagine Olwen is too. Olwen is just going to very quietly like whisper to Leto and say, you might want to be careful. That one tends to fly off the handle on certain occasions.
She has more reason than most.
That is completely fair. I have known many people of a similar disposition, and they have punched me in the face so many times. I am used to it. It is completely fine. I like this group. I want to work more with this group.
Sage is going to, despite feeling like this is ill-advised, approach Suda and say, I won't get into details, but I think it's important that you do know what you missed. So the Dream Crown was disassembled. She had one of those red crystals, much like the fire starter. It was not put there by Athen. We don't know where it came from. After that, we finished that puzzle thing that was left in the Vardo. There was a book. Caradwin can show it to you later if you'd like to see it, but I don't think books are really your thing. We headed down here. The vine stopped about a day's travel worth into Mor Akkros. We have been assaulted by multiple undead. Not hordes, only a few really, but rather dangerous, tended to ambush in the middle of the night, so I'd recommend that, at least for the sake of Leto and I, we have some lights on, even when we're camping for the evening. I know you may not struggle to see in the dark as much as Leto and I, but it would be nice, and maybe help you see a little better as well, for our safety. No more running errands alone. And she says that louder. Still not sure what kind of errands one might need to go on underground, but considering the number of collapses and ambushes we have faced, at least use the buddy system.
I'm not even going to dignify that with a response.
Are you guys, I know you guys kind of agreed to settle and rest for a bit. Are we thinking short rest or are we thinking long rest? Because both have their pros and cons, of course.
I'm good with either.
If we're comfy, we can keep going. That's fine.
I'm personally comfortable just moving on with a short. I'm missing a couple spells, but not too big a deal. I can stab him instead. That's still perfectly effective.
If you guys want to do a short rest, you totally can. I just know when you cast that Pass Without Trace, so if you guys want to continue on just to get use of that spell as you move further, Leto would take a couple minutes. With your help, it'll go a little faster to copy everything down. Whenever he's done, you guys can move on. So if you guys want to do a short rest, you won't have that Pass Without Trace. If you guys want to just keep going to keep that spell up.
Tell me if this is something we could do. Could we use it to hide right now? In this little outpost, so that we can give ourselves a little bit of hey, we're hidden right now. Maybe they won't find us if we take an hour here, that sort of thing. Could we use it for that?
Yeah, if you want to use that as a flavor-wise reason to essentially batten down the hatches and hunker down in this outpost for a little bit, yeah, for sure. Okay, so we're settling down in here for a short rest.
If it's possible with the we're being quiet thing, I will just start very quietly, low-key plucking at my lyre. And so that doing Song of Rest. So if anyone is in here wants to, is spending hit dice, you can add an extra 1d6.
Bring a little bit of comfort of home down here with your Song of Rest.
When Elena begins to play, almost instinctually, Suda goes for her earwax, but stops halfway up, realizes that she doesn't need it, and flicks it away.
You all sit for an hour here in this dark, honestly kind of a bit crowded outpost. It was obviously never meant for more than a pair, maybe 3 people, 3 people, with all 6 bodies crammed in here. It's a little overcrowded, but it's kind of a silent, agreed upon thing that it's not quite safe to leave the outpost at the current moment. So you all grin and bear it, to an extent suffering through each other's very close company for an hour. Before finally Leto has finished copying down all the notes with the help of Olwen Tanner. The Song of Rest concludes, rejuvenating you and your party. You all sit for an extra handful of minutes. Everyone just kind of sitting in like quiet contemplation, I would say. A lot has happened. And it's more so everyone just kind of in their own heads. It feels like kind of going over, adjusting themselves to the new normal. Before finally, as the hour draws to a close, Leto, like before, is the first one to stand and slowly approach the small, grimy window, reaching a hand up to wipe some of the grime away and peek out before pausing. And you hear him mutter to himself, "There's no lights out there. I don't know what I'm looking for. I just see dark, okay." He moves back from the window, realizing how useless it is to try to look out. Turning back to everyone else. If we are ready to continue on, I think I will try to primarily use the map we have acquired now. It is not complete, so it is not perfect. So there are some parts where I may have to use the Heart Mimic, but I think I should try to use just the map rather than the Heart Mimic now that we are in the city proper, so we don't encounter any more of the creatures.
As we're getting ready to leave, Owen is going to set his hand down again and recast the pass.
You all exit from the outpost. What is everyone's passive perception, real quick?
24.
17.
16.
11.
9.
I think Carrie, Olwen, and Alina are the ones who notice. As you exit the outpost, you're turning to continue on your way. The 3 of you, the sight of the previous battle catches your eye. You see the creatures that you have slain, the ones that did not run away, the ones that you took down, are gone. There's evidence of the battle that occurred there, but whatever stringy, undead flesh amalgamation, lines of black ichor and bone that remained as you took down those creatures.
Do they appear dragged away, or are they just gone? Like, no trace of how they could have disappeared?
Just gone. You see, since you did that environment check earlier, and you know to look for this, you see spots of that black ichor that indicated standing still and then moving. You see there's evidence of where they were, like where the corpse parasite was slain. There's part of that black ichor pooled in a similar way to blood. And then you see it slightly smudged, and then drips of it leading away into the dark.
It moved. Or maybe more of it came to take the body, but it went that way. You can see slight traces of that dripping.
Because that's not creepy enough.
Caridwen and I took a look at it at the outpost earlier. These things, they're attacking us. There must be a reason, but they don't eat. There were no signs of a nest or droppings or anything. That one was just standing in the outpost, and it didn't move until we arrived near it. We contemplated and thought there might be some intelligence behind this, whether when they were made and it's dead now, or maybe it's still around, but there might be something intelligent down here that's moving these things around, or at least setting them in places. I don't know. I can't confirm. All I know, all we were able to find out was they're not acting on any sort of reasonable instinct.
Unless that instinct is to protect something, to keep us from approaching it.
Leto, what's that direction? You have the map, right?
He looks at the map and glances up at the dark and squints, and then back down at the map. The passage we are in is just one of the entrance passageways. If we go that direction far enough, we would hit the opposite wall. If we turn around and went the other way, we would hit the other wall. We are just essentially in a giant tunnel leading into the city proper. We're on the very outskirts. But I mean, the wispy ones, they came through, and the bony ones, they came through floors and walls, didn't they? So it is reasonable assumption to think that they can move through the rock and stone in a way that we cannot. They are not bound by the open passageways like we are. That's terrifying.
I was more pointing at the direction that the drips go off.
Yeah, that's what he was indicating.
Got it.
I suppose we'll just have to keep an eye out, yes?
Mm.
Disgusting. I love it.
Olwyn, are you still able to pick up on the sounds?
Owen will sort of get down and press his ear to the floor. Do I hear anything?
You press down and you listen. It's very quiet as you focus in. That repetitive clicking that you heard prior. You hear it now, but a lot more drawn out. It is a single... Like, there's large spaces between each one. It's not as rapid anymore. But you still hear the presence of whatever the source of this is deep in the earth.
The clicking's still there. It's slow, it's drawn out.
Maybe protecting whatever makes that sound?
Maybe it functions like the heart mimic. Maybe this is how it looks for things.
Or an alarm.
Well, no time for discussing, I guess. Let's keep going.
I agree. We should move quickly and quietly.
Leto is leading the way with the map. He's not, like, far ahead, but as you're all clustered in a somewhat tight group, he's at the forefront. Let's go ahead and have everyone roll stealth with the Pass Without Trace, and this will be just for all the general travel you guys are about to do, to see how carefully you are able to be navigating this city.
Oh, okay, so 21 then.
27.
28.
31.
31.
Moving on through this passage as stealthily as you can. I will point out to everyone, as you neglected to properly, like, fully rest at the outpost. You got that short rest, which I will tell you right now will help lower the DC on this, because you guys did rest some. You started this day leaving the near fight with the Husk, and you had hours of travel, you fought, you lost a friend, you lost 2 friends, and now you're traveling even further. So, I'm going to ask for Constitution saving throws from everyone.
16.
12 for Sage.
9.
10.
Natural 20.
Even as low of a DC as the short rest made it, you two still, unfortunately, did not roll too well. So, Olwyn and Alina, as we continue on this travel, just the tension of everything and the focus on moving stealthily, putting in a bit of extra effort as you move through this city, it does drain you extensively. Each of you are going to take a point of exhaustion. You all move for approximately 2 to 3 more hours through this city. Going from this tunnel that was the, like, very outer reaches of Mor Akkros, eventually you reach the end of it and come across what is essentially like a grand staircase, almost, that as you begin to walk down it, again, it's that same thing like you were in the tunnel earlier. The extent of people's dark vision and the extent of people's light sources do not go far enough to see the other end of things. So for almost like half an hour, you guys are descending on this massive staircase with nothing but pure and total darkness around you. Looking over the side of the staircase, you hear your voices and your footsteps echoing off of what you can only assume is a massive cavern. And looking down over, you have to only imagine how far down it goes. How long you would fall for if you took a misstep and went over the edge.
Are the steps built for people of roughly our size?
Yeah, they seem normal steps. There are some spots that have, like, crumbled, so there are some points where it's a little tense because you have to carefully step over large holes in the stairs. At one point, taking a very tiny jump to skip a step that's completely missing. Everyone's heart's kind of sinking into their stomach, realizing just how high up you are. It is such a switch up on the level of discomfort, going from crawling upside down in tiny foot-wide holes to being in such a massive space. But you all continue and finally reach the bottom step. As you're reaching the very bottom, the extensive dark vision and light, you see the tops of other buildings begin to come into view. Just regular flat roofs. They hadn't taken the time, you would have to assume, to create any sort of interesting architecture or anything preventative of weather, just enough to keep privacy, essentially. There's not really a lot of natural phenomenon to fight off other than an occasional rock fall. But as you reach the bottom, you come into the city proper, seeing around you these blocks of stone buildings, carved stone courtyards. There are wrought iron lamps that stand at the edges of streets and courtyards with no light sources inside. Dust and dirt and small bits of debris scattered about. You see carts turned over on their sides, the rotten remains of old packages and maybe food waste long, long gone. There's not a lot of disarray, really. Strangely to see. When you think of ruins, you think of large chunks of old stone and dilapidated buildings. Well, you do see some evidence of that for a city that predates the Empire. Like the parchments way back at the outpost, it is impossibly well kept. It is impossibly untouched. Your footsteps and your voices echo as you continue off these stairs onto the small courtyard, looking up, seeing nothing but empty blackness. And you are here free in the city to do as you please.
This is not right.
It's like the people that lived here just vanished.
Leto, are you sure about the age of this place?
I'm as sure as I can be. Dating some of the samples that some of the mercenaries brought back, the ones that didn't go too deep in. I mean, we have never been this deep in before, but it's difficult to imagine that the passage before us is older than the city we are in now. It's very curious. Well,
Elena researches old stuff, pre-Empire things, all that sort of stuff. Looking around, does the structure of the buildings looks familiar? Is there anything about this that's like pinging my, oh yeah, I read in a book once about Greeks and that looks like a Doric column kind of stuff?
Yeah. Mor Akkros was previously undiscovered, and the location of this city is a lot different from any other pre-Empire ruins that people have investigated and studied. So nothing here immediately stands out. You have done enough research into pre-Empire ruins above ground that I think you do see some influence in some of the architecture, but again, it's a very different environment as well, so they have adapted their own way of building and putting things together to fit their own environment. I do think you see, in terms of, I guess, the decorative, like, carving into some of the stone is the thing that would most stand out to you. It follows, not exactly, but a somewhat similar pattern to ruins that you have studied before. While not the most solid foundation to base a theory on, it does lend credibility to the idea that this is a pre-Empire city, regardless of how impossibly well kept it is.
And do any of the stories or images carved in, like, are they familiar stories or things I know, or like...
It's mostly just decorative.
Just decorative.
Yeah. So nothing that... Not like a mural wall or anything so far.
No Egyptian hieroglyphs yet.
Unfortunately, no. The plot isn't spelled out for you.
Is there any moss, mold, insects, any sort of like living thing down here?
You don't even have to roll for that. I can tell you straight up, especially with how attuned to nature Olwen is, there's not a single sign of natural life. You hear no scurrying of rats or bugs. those strange, unnatural vines at the entrance, you haven't seen since you left that area. There's no growth, there's no greenery. It's almost offensively familiar to Understone, the Carved Kingdom, with how bland and gray and stone and rock and just lifeless and cold it is.
None of this makes sense. If this place was abandoned for so long, the world would have reclaimed it a little bit. Mold, moss, something, insects. Something would be living here, but no. This place is dead.
Perfectly timed. Caradwin would like to... I think I'm leaning towards either a perception or an insight. They'd really like to just take a moment to expand their senses. We are in a buried city with no sense of life in it. I would like to try to see if there's some sort of presence or inclination towards my god. We are...
Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, as your call, my suspicion would be either insight or perception, but I'll let you choose.
Let's call this an insight. This feels more looking in than looking out.
I would also like to ask if I can use one of my special abilities, knowledge from a past life. When you make an ability check that uses a skill, you can roll a d6 and add the number to the check.
Please do. No, mechanically, you absolutely, this makes sense for you to use it, but also I get to have a fun time. I get to do fun stuff.
I mean, maybe not, because I just rolled a natural 1.
Did you roll your d6 dice?
I did.
What'd you roll on that?
My total roll all together, and it was insight, which I'm good at too, is a 10.
With a natural 1 on your insight, Caradwin, you take a step or two sort of away from the party, just to allow yourself a deep breath without being in this clustered group that you've been traveling with for the last couple hours. You inhale that cold air, that smell of earth, and the cold dankness of the underground that has been so familiar and almost comforting to you as of late. It doesn't feel that way anymore. And that really gives you pause. Something about this familiar environment that has suddenly become so unfamiliar just leaves you with more questions and really throws you for a loop. And for a moment, you reach back into a dark, shadowed place of your mind that has been blocked off since that grave site, trying to find out more as you find yourself lacking. And your breath catches for a moment, because instead of the earth, you just smell copper. And you don't know where in all of your blood-soaked memories that specific one comes from. But it frightens you enough to back off of yourself, essentially. This is a strange, weird environment, and you don't want to touch it. Leto takes the logbook that he has copied the map in his hands and kind of steps forward a couple rapid steps. There's like a very old, very dried out like fountain in the center of the small courtyard area you all are in. He walks over towards that and kind of sets the logbook on the side and just is leaning over it and studying it, occasionally looking up and looking around. Okay, so we just left one of the outposts. Based on the map, that was one of the very outer rings of the city. We've gone down the stairs. Now we're in the next one inside, of course. It seems it's not only goes in, but it continues to go down. So if we make our way through this section of the city, we will hit another set of stairs, go down, another ring, in, down, continue, so on and so forth until we reach the heart. So far, everything is remarkably well preserved, so I don't imagine that we will run into too many issues, but given how unstable the rocks were before, I also hesitate to say that we'll be able to just walk right in. But unless anyone has any objections, we should be able to just continue on as normal.
As we're like getting ready to leave, Olwen is just gonna try and touch the ground. He's going to pull out one of the seeds that he always carries and he uses for some of his spells. I just want to touch one to the ground, and I'm going to try and get it to sprout.
Yeah. Using magic that is, no pun intended, second nature to you. Incredibly familiar and easy for you to do. You put this seed to the ground, and you will it to grow. Your mind drifts to the cool air of the mountains, the scent of the pine and the coldness of the snow, the sound of the grass and old leaves crunching underfoot, willing that life down through your fingers into the ground to make this seed thrive. And you feel it struggle for a moment. It doesn't happen instantly as you're used to. But slowly you feel it begin to sprout. Roots go in between the gaps of the stone, and the stem grows upwards. The petals of a white lily flower begin to unfurl and bloom. A touch of green, a touch of life in this terrible, terrible city. And it's a moment of relief and familiarity as it works. A little difficult, but it works. And that only lasts for a couple seconds. Similarly to the reddish veins of the vines at the entrance, like veins through a body of flesh and blood, you see red begin to pump through the white petals of this lily flower as it touches down into the earth of Mor Akkros, and it shudders, but remains still. But that red remains.
As Olwen releases a breath, he's going to sort of motion for Sage to come closer. Well, he's going to start speaking and say, Sage, come take a look at this. It's rejecting me, just the same way that those vines at the entrance did. Things don't want to be alive down here.
I want to reach out and just very gently touch the petals, and I almost want to make a medicine check and see if I can, feel a pulse or something.
I think that's very fun. Go ahead and make a medicine check on the flower.
Okay, 16 plus my medicine is a dirty 20.
Dirty 20. You reach out for the newly sprouted flower. And I think pulse was a really good word for you to use. Because if you put your hand on Olwen's arm right next to you, you're conscious of the flowing of blood through his veins. Reaching out and putting a hand on the flower, you're conscious of almost the exact same sensation. These are alive. Just not in a traditional plant way.
Olwen, does this... Can you feel if this pulse, is it synchronized with the clicking?
You, with a hand on the flower and your ear to the ground, focus in on that feeling and that noise. And as you're focusing down, listening quietly, reaching out, all of you hear shuffling in the distance, turning rapid, turning quick. Looking up at the edges of your vision, you see tendrils of black ichor moving around doorways and beginning to move closely toward you at a rapid pace, not making a single sound, but suddenly at the size of a hefty linebacker, but moving with the speed of a jungle cat, just suddenly sprinting towards you as this flower has broken the surface of the ground. And as they run towards you, Olwen, you hear the pulse of the flower match with the clicking in the ground as it speeds up. Everyone, please roll initiative for me! All right. Anyone with initiative above 20?
23. 21.
15 to 10.
Lucky number 13.
12.
11.
Let's roll for Leto. Leto is 9. So, as Olwen is making this connection on the ground with the plant, you all look up to see two different forms of the corpse parasite creature. One coming from further down the road, the other emerging from a nearby building. And they, hulking in their forms, begin to rush towards you. Yes, 2 of them.
Are they flanking us or coming from the same direction?
They're coming from the same direction. They're coming from, like, deeper within the city. And with a couple wonderful initiatives to start us off, Carrie, you are our first to act.
Okay, seeing a couple of these things rushing towards us, I assume one maybe slightly ahead of the other. The one that is slightly closer, whatever is nearer to approaching the party.
Yeah. Approximately 30 feet away, the one coming from deeper within the city, approximately 45.
Great. I'll hit the first one with a guiding bolt.
Perfect.
Oh, sweet. Dirty 20 to hit.
Absolutely, that hits.
Glorious. 12 radiant damage.
Beautiful.
Very similar to the turn undead, that channel divinity. It is almost a bolt of shadow ringed in light, as if something very dark is backlit. Yes, a bolt of like negative light, basically, just rocketing out from their hand.
All right, Caradwin immediately going into action, sending forth their guiding bolts.
Can I bonus action hide?
Absolutely, if you want a bonus action hide. There's you guys are in like a small courtyard, essentially, one of the small entrances into the city. So easy enough to just rush over to the side and kind of duck in the space between one of the buildings and the doorway.
I rolled a stealth check out of instinct and got a nat 20 again. What the fuck?
Nice. Yeah, Caradwin fucking disappears.
Can I get those on my attack rolls? Jesus.
Caradwin sends off this insane spell and then fucking disappears from sight. Caradwin is gone. Okay, Alina, you are up next.
First, there's the look at Caradwin. Caradwin throws the spell and then disappears. Wait, what? Then looks back at the 2 things bearing down. Oh, crap. And I think just out of instinct, she's just gonna chuck, let's do a level 1 Dissonant Whispers at the same one that Carrie hit.
Yes, the closer one. Number 1 and number 2 is the farther one.
Number 1, so it needs to make, succeed on a Wisdom saving throw 15.
Wisdom save 15. Oof! I'm sorry, that's an 18.
But it still takes damage. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points halved of... Sorry,
We'll
psychic.
round up, so call it 5.
Cool.
Alright, anything else from Alina?
Elena, after doing that, is going to turn to Olwyn and just say, mess it up. And you got 1 Bardic Inspiration, 1d8.
Up next, we have our spooky boys. So, the first one, the closer one, is going to complete its run forward. It does stop, let me check the reach on this. It does stop 15 feet away from your party as its tendrils replacing its noggin have quite a good reach. Caradwin is out of sight. It is unable to locate Caradwin, so goes for the next best thing, which is number 1, Alina, and is then going to go for the one that looks the most threatening to it, which is going to be Suda. So both of you, it is going to attempt to hit you. All right. For Alina, that's going to be a dirty 20 to hit.
Yeah, that hits.
For Suda, that's a 22 to hit. Damn. It is, unfortunately, since it hits both of those, going to ensnare each of you within its long tendril appendages. So as you are both ensnared, you are not going to take damage. It cannot do that in the same turn, but it is going to, as you are ensnared, pull you closer towards it. So suddenly, as you guys are thrown into the midst of this battle, those tendril appendages whip out, wrap around your torsos, and begin to pull you forward. No matter how much you dig your heels into the stone ground, its strength is immeasurable, and it pulls you towards it. That is the first one to act. The second one, which is 45 away, is going to take its full movement forward, and it is also This one's also going to be within that reach and is going to go for the other 2 that are remaining. So let's go for Sage and Olwen. Sage, it is in 18 to hit.
Wait, no, that still hits.
And that is also definitely going to hit, unfortunately. I'm sorry, guys. I'm rolling good for these guys today. So, in addition, the second one uses its full movement to run up, and those tendrils launch out, wrap around Olwen and Sage, and begin to pull those 2 towards it. Carrie, watching from the shadows, you see all 4 of your party members immediately get wrapped up in these appendages and begin to get pulled towards it. No one's taken damage yet, as fortunately it cannot do so on this round, but you are all considered grappled, and you cannot move away from this thing, anything like that. So all 4 of you that are ensnared, you guys are within melee range. So yes, I'm sorry, when I say ensnared, I do mean grappled condition. All right, so that is the turn of each of our corpse parasites. Olwen, you are up next.
I think Olwen, as all of us were sort of like grabbed, he's going to just reach into that same like little pouch of seeds that he bloomed the flower from, and sort of just not thinking about it, he's going to toss several of them forward, and he's going to concentrate hard as he forces all of them to bloom in the same way that flower did, as he casts Entangle. I think as he's doing this entire time, Olwen has been concentrating on spells for at least the past 3 hours. So I think like the exhaustion is at this point beginning to like show on his face. He, like beads of sweat are like dripping from his brow. Growing these plants here in a place that's rejecting them is taking more effort than it should, as he forces these flowers to bloom despite all that. So both of them will have to make a Strength DC 14 saving throw.
Strength save DC 14. The first one succeeds the saving throw. The second one, that's a nat 20. Unfortunately, both succeed.
They will still have half movement while in the terrain, because it's difficult. And as that spell is sort of hindering their movement, more of that sand and dirt and ground is going to sort of like crawl up like Olwen's leg as his eyes turn ruby-like again. I'm going to cast Blade Ward on myself as a bonus action.
All right. Sage, you are up next.
Ooh, this is a tough one. Sage is not really equipped to get herself out of this grapple. And I think there's a moment of like panic. Usually she's getting somebody else out of this situation, but with her herself in, she's having a hard time like prioritizing that. So I think what she is going to do, almost just like in a panic as we're like pulled closer together, she is going to like reach out and grab Olwen's arm, and she is going to instinctively extend that arcane ward onto Olwen as the closest person to her, and also attempt, that's a bonus action, Shield of Faith, don't tell Sage, plus 2 to your AC unless she loses concentration. And with her action, gosh, it's gonna have to be a Mind Sliver. I think just trying to like almost stun this thing so that she can maybe have a better chance of getting out, maybe have a better chance of it not being able to bite down on her as hard or whatever it might do. So that's going to be an intelligence saving throw. My DC is 16.
Oh my god, that is a second nat 20.
You're valid and I love you, and I am grappled, so that is going to be my turn. Don't kill me!
Yeah, Suda, you're up next.
Suda, having just been freed from her bond with her sister, whether or not she wanted it, that freedom or not, will not stand being bound again. Suda rages. And what this looks like is that black veining will creep along her arms, sprout from her eyes as they ignite this black flame, and she just goes full bare hand tearing at whatever's holding her and ripping. So I get advantage on strength checks to break out. Is that just like an athletics, or is that...
Yeah, so just straight up athletics versus this gentleman, this lovely fella.
22.
Suda full just says no, and you just start ripping this thing off of you. You successfully break his grapple.
Awesome. Well, I mean, that's action, bonus action. I guess that's my turn.
Beautiful. Yeah, total power move. You break out of this thing's grapple. As you all are suddenly engaged with these corpse parasites, Leto, behind all of you, who was kind of posted up at the fountain, suddenly drops his bag and starts digging through it. He, in sort of his panic, he's not a fighter, of course, he pulls a torch out and starts clacking together, trying to get it lit. You guys hear the spark, 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 as he lights this torch. And he is kind of off to the side and begins to creep as close as he can and starts waving the torch at the thing, just trying to scare it off the best he can. The corpse parasite, number 2, the one that was originally further away, holding Sage and Olwen, is the one he's primarily kind of waving this torch at. Shrinks away a bit at the heat and the light. All right. We're going to go right back up to the top of our initiative with Caradwin.
Great. That guiding bolt lasts until the end of this turn, which means I will go ahead and take the advantage that I inadvertently gave myself. And I will spring from the shadows and take a stab at the corpse parasite that is currently holding Elena, that I believe Suda just broke out of. Advantage. Thank goodness for the advantage. Do I add to my attacks? One day I'll remember. 24 to hit.
24 absolutely hits.
D6. 18 points of slashing damage. And then the offhand attack is another natural one, so...
Beautiful. Yeah, you do a good bit of damage. You guys, in the midst of all this happening, almost all of you grappled by these two creatures. Leto trying to push it away with the intensity of this flaming torch. And Suda just full rage, pulling herself free. Caradwin, as quiet as a breeze, shoots out of the shadows, and with a very efficient attack, you strike down on that first corpse parasite.
I would like to add a note for flavor, if
Please.
possible. I think because Suda has broken out of the grapple, but Elena is still grappled, I would be specifically targeting sort of the tentacle area around Elena to maybe make an attempt to break free easier if that tendril is weakened or damaged in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect. It is definitely looking hurt. Elena, you are up next.
So Elena watches Carrie come in and kind of meets their eyes for a moment, and holds it. And as she's holding that gaze, suddenly there's like a dark purpley blue that starts to take over, and her focus suddenly shifts to the creature, and she's casting Crown of Madness. Wisdom 15 save.
Wisdom 15. It was a 19 plus stuff.
So that fails, unfortunately.
Unfortunately.
And so she tries, she does the thing, her eyes change, but it doesn't take hold, and I'm gonna assume that she can get at least one hand to her head. She puts her head ow, ugh, God. Someday that'll work. Bonus action, I will give inspo to Carrie.
Alina, still grappled by the corpse parasite. Unfortunately, Suda broke out, which means both of its attacks are going to go on you. So first attack. Okay, second attack. So first one to hit is going to be 18. Second one is going to be 16.
I will silvery barbs the 18.
Okay, so I will re-roll that 18.
Mm-hmm.
That makes the 18 a 14.
It means it beats it. They both hit.
In that case, I will go ahead and roll the damage. Please roll me 2 Constitution saving throws.
8 and 5.
So first you're going to take from both attacks 17 points of slashing damage as the tendrils just begin to needle into the side of your neck from both sides. Just sharp, minuscule teeth, hundreds of them all over. And you feel that black ichor just cold and hot at the same time just begin to seep into your body. Since you failed both, you are under the poisoned condition, and I'm going to roll some poison damage. That's 16 plus 5 is 21 plus 3, another 24 points of poison damage on top. How many hit points does Zelina have left?
I have 1 point left.
Okay, that's the first one. That was both attacks going on Alina because she was the only one left ensnared. Olwen and Sage are going to take their hits now. So first one for Sage, that is going to be a 19 to hit.
Motherfucker, it hits. Shield doesn't matter.
Second one for Olwen. Olwen, that is going to be a dirty 20 to hit.
Yeah, that hits.
Okay, both of you make me a Constitution saving throw.
It didn't fuck me. 21.
21, you pass.
7.
7, you fail. Sage, you are going to take 10 points of slashing damage.
Okay, that goes to the arcane ward.
Perfect. You succeeded your save, so you're only going to take half of this poison, which is going to be 7 points of poison damage.
Okay, 5 to the ward, 2 to my actual HP.
Perfect. Olwen, you are going to take 8 points of slashing. You are under the poisons condition. And you take... Jesus. You take 14 points of poison. All right, that is the end of their turn. Olwen, you are up next.
I think Olwen, as like these tentacles are lashing out, as like the bile is like gathering in his mouth again, as like his spell is struggling to like block some of the attacks, he is going to make contact with Alina, and I think through the bile in his mouth, he is going to say, "You stupid silver spoon bastard, grit your teeth right now." He's going to reach out, and I'm going to cast Gust to blast Alina out of the tentacle grapple.
Ooh! Fun, fun, fun.
And I think as Alina is taken away from the tentacles, Owen is going to raise both of his arms to sort of like block towards his face a little bit. His eyes are going to harden into that same like ruby like appearance. And I think I'm just gonna flip off like this creature.
Olwen flipping off the face of death. We are going to go to Sage.
Sage is going into analysis mode now that we got that first round of panic out of the way. I am going to try to firebolt this baby, and we'll see how this goes. So disadvantage due to be in melee range, because range attack. Pow! Actually, the lower of the two is a 13 plus my modifier for a 21.
Damn. Yeah. Hell yeah.
12 fire damage, and Sage doesn't do a lot of fireball. I feel like this is a spell that she just learned by rote. This is a basic evocation spell that was one of like the first things that you learn when you're trying to learn to be a wizard. So it's not very Sage. It is just like her holding up her hand and a firebolt, like the standard generic Walmart spell casting. In this case, probably going for some of the ichor, trying to like maybe evaporate some of it away or something like that.
You hit it with this blast of fire directly to its face, I say in quotations. I'm gonna go ahead and roll for this thing in reaction to that real quick. You see its form shudders but holds strong.
So that is all I can do for this turn. Thank you.
You do a good bit of damage to it, and that is the end of your turn. We are going to go to Suda.
I am going to wail on this bastard, holding Alina, just swinging for the fences, but I'm starting off with the Hexblade's Curse, which adds damage and stuff if I kill it. Ooh. That is a 24.
24 definitely hits.
For a D6 plus 6. 17 points. As this blackened blade just cleaves into it.
Beautiful. Yeah, you deal this thing a mighty blow.
Trying to at least get its attention on me, maybe.
Absolutely, yeah. And Alina's no longer grappled within it thanks to that gust that she willingly failed. So it is no longer grappling anyone. So its main focus is, of course, whoever it's grappling on, you've come to realize, but you're definitely pulling its attention now.
All right. Yep, that's me.
After Suda's turn, we go back to Leto, who is just clutching this torch tightly and continuing to swing it. It's now kind of turning towards Leto, not like in an aggressive way. You see its tendrils that it has used to both grapple and attack are like kind of going forward, but immediately recoil away from the reach of the light and the heat of the flame that he is currently wielding. So as Leto is swinging this torch around, two of our companions still trapped in the grappling reach of these corpse parasites. Alina badly hurt. We are actually going to end our session for today in the midst of this harrowing battle. Thank you all so much for joining us. I hope you have a fun time. I know I'm having fun. I'm so excited to be in Mor Akkros proper and just throw the fucking book at these guys. Thank you again for joining us. I hope you've had a wonderful time and that you consider joining us for the next one. There's still so much to uncover and so many conversations to have and so many party members to kill. I got a whole 5 of them that I need to take out. Guys, come on.
Remember, you guys, no matter what, Khuvos is surviving.
Khuvos is surviving no matter what.
One of us made it out.
One of us made it out. Godspeed, Nemenath. We'll see you next time.
Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Bye.
Bye.